Welcome back to A Fresh Story, the podcast where we have conversations about brave decisions to start over again. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Jenny, and we're so glad you're here today.
Hello, Sissy. How are you?
I am good, Delulu. How are you?
Delulu, I'm okay. You know, I have been working with my coach, Julie Costa, on some subconscious reprogramming.
Love that
and
for you.
I know we stand Julie. And so one of the things that we talk about in anytime you do subconscious reprogramming is modeling. It's a big part of it. Who can you model? Who can you learn from? And which is one of the reasons I love coaching and the NLP model and recently we were talking a lot in my session about modeling for success, right? Who has been both an incredibly successful person financially and in the world, but also a parent who has been really successful. And so I feel like Kelley, we did this podcast episode with Kelley Higney. She is the founder and CEO of the Bug Bite Thing, which is a Shark Tank product. And she came on. It was so lovely. It was so brilliant. She's an inventor, but also I learned so much about being a successful working mom. And I think she said the Bug Bite Thing, the empire is up to $45 million.
She said over 4 years, they've done $45 million in revenue.
4 years, they've done $45 million. And that I loved her advice on how she handles being a mom and being a CEO. So this was a really awesome conversation. She is just full of ideas, so passionate about what she does. So please enjoy this episode with Kelley, and please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to A Fresh Story so we can keep telling fresh start stories. Kelley Higney is the founder and CEO of Bug Bite Thing, the leader in providing consumers with chemical-free first aid products, including its insect bite relief suction tool, which is Amazon's #1 seller for insect bite relief, and its tick remover tweezer tool, approved for both people and pets, that launched this summer. It was her determination to find a natural alternative to the available remedies on the market that would alleviate her 6-month-old daughter's constantly suffering from mosquito bites, which led her to the discovery of an unfamiliar product that uses suction to remove the irritant. Then, after securing exclusive distribution rights to the product, she branded it Bug Bite Thing and has since been a mom on a mission educating the world on the most effective chemical-free solution for insect bite relief. The company gained national recognition in October 2019 when Kelley and her mom appeared on ABC's hit show Shark Tank. In April 2021, Kelley and her mother returned to Shark Tank. This time, they shared details on the company's transformation into a multi-million-dollar enterprise following their first appearance on the show. Kelley lives in Port St. Lucie with her husband and 2 daughters. And I am happy to say that my 2 boys, we're on Long Island, and there's a lot of mosquitoes here too. And my older son is highly allergic to mosquitoes. Like, he gets those welts. And so when you guys sent us some product to try, we used it all summer. And you know what the cool thing is, Kelley, is like my kids are 10 and 7 and they can do it themselves.
Yes. We get so many people that are self-treating at camps, school, at the bus stops. We had kids getting stung by bees. So it's an incredible first aid tool to have and send with your kids.
It's awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you here. So thank you for being here.
So happy. Thank you guys so much for having me on. Very excited to share my story with your community and hopefully give some tips that will help somebody else.
Please.
Yeah, seriously. How are you doing today?
We're doing great. So Bug Bite Thing has obviously exploded. I can kind of tell you where my whole story started. All the way back in 2013 is when this whole fresh story starts.
Well, let's take it away, Kelley. Take us back to the beginning of your fresh start story.
Yeah, so 2013, I'm born and raised in California, San Diego, grew up there. I actually met my husband in 7th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, we were best friends growing up, never dated until we were older and roommates, and essentially grew up in a very small hometown. And my mom had already relocated probably about 5 years prior to Florida. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, so I kind of grew up, my mom was a business owner, my grandmother was a business owner, so my very early days, I grew up in an office. I mean, I had things happening all around me. I didn't understand it. Now in my later life, I see the value in my surroundings in that. But I ate dinner in the lunchroom. All my breaks were spent in the warehouse, drawing on whiteboards and playing with the forklift. So,
what did they do? What was the product?
No, they didn't even have a product. They're a distribution company. So they deal, AC Kerman has been in existence for over 30 years. My grandmother started the company, and they essentially work as a middleman provider for overseas distributors. And they're in the fishing industry. So essentially they can help work with all the U.S. manufacturers in the fishing industry. Then they have their customer overseas. They can place one order for a bunch of different manufacturers. My mom has relationships with all of them, so she can compile everything, get containers, service one customer overseas. So now they're not having to deal with the language barriers, the time zone differences, import, export, all that stuff, can get complicated, especially when you're dealing with international business. So they found a niche, and they've had long-term customers for as long as I can remember. So we had people from Japan flying in and staying with us. So it was really a really unique upbringing, which forced me to kind of always think outside the box. I didn't really know any different. My mom didn't graduate from college. She's also self-taught and an entrepreneur. So they all kind of just dove in and figured it out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I grew up. And so my mom was already in Florida, and I was kind of doing my own thing in California. I was a new wife, and we had just had our first baby. She was 6 months old back at this time frame, and we were struggling. We were living paycheck to paycheck in San Diego. We shared one car. My husband worked a night shift. I worked the day shift, and it was really difficult. So I got the opportunity to relocate from California to South Florida to start learning my family's distribution company and where I could fit in and possibly start building and establishing a career that was more sustainable for me. And so we made the move, all very excited, and not even a week into the move, we realized very quickly the mosquitoes were a horrible problem out here in South Florida.
Yeah.
And just like you were talking, about your experience with your son, my daughter also reacts so severely to mosquito bites where one bite will turn into a golf ball sized welt. Some of her bites were blistering where it would literally look like a blister, and almost all of them started to get infected.
Yep.
And so week over week, we were in the doctor's office. I was applying creams around the clock, which obviously as a new mom reading everything, I'm like feeling guilty. My daughter's a baby. She's putting things in her mouth. I'm like, this is not working for us. So we continued to just research, as all the home remedies, all the over-the-counter products. For about a year, we were dealing with this at a really bad, inconvenient, like it was affecting our lives. We were avoiding the outdoors because it was terrible.
Right.
And that was just my daughter's experience. I was also actually suffering myself. I also react severely. I don't blister or react as severely as my daughter, but I was lathering in creams. My sheets were sticky and covered in things. It was gross. So scars on my legs from itching. And so I was also looking for some kind of solution. So I started researching and went down a rabbit hole of anything I could find and started researching how other countries were combating insect bites. And I came across a little known suction tool that was being sold through some industrial first aid kits. And the premise behind it was if you can catch the bite early enough and you can suction out some of the irritants from it, your body doesn't go into the full reaction, which causes the uncomfortable symptoms, itching, stinging, swelling. And the great thing is it claimed at the time when I was researching, it claimed to work on bees and anything that mosquitoes, and anything that left their irritant just under the surface of the skin. So I said, what do I have to lose? I've tried everything. It's not going to work. There's no way it's going to work, because something so simple worked, it would be everywhere. So ordered one in, and I'll never forget, I got a bite on the way to the mailbox that day, and get my tool, because obviously it didn't have a name. It was like a different variation, because it was a foreign name, so it was in a different language than English. And so I used it after the bite on the way to the mailbox, and instantly, and anybody that uses the product, it's hard to explain, but you can attest to it, it starts to feel relieving, almost like a hot shower when you put a bug bite on,
Yep.
because you start to feel things being brought to the surface. And I held it in place, and within seconds, the itching and swelling just essentially never really formed.
Right.
The welt went down, and my bite went away. And I thought it was a complete fluke. I'm like, there's no way. So continued to use my one tool I had ordered in, then started really testing it on my daughter. And that's when it became a game changer for us. She started getting more comfortable using it. Then she started asking me to use it because it was giving her relief. Then we started using it in our daily lives. We were using it multiple times a day. So I took my little suction tool and I started showing it to friends and family, and they were getting very similar results. So at that point I said, okay, I'm working for my family-owned business. My daughter now, fast forward, is starting preschool. And I was going to try to sell some of these at my daughter's bake sales or preschools to make some, side money at the time. That's where I was thinking while I built my career, and also just help people in my community, because I was dumbfounded with how many mosquitoes are in Florida that there wasn't something like this. And it worked so well, and I just couldn't get over that. So I tracked down the factory who was manufacturing the product, and I said, I really want to order a sample batch, and I want to sell them at bake sales and test it out. So I ordered a very, very small sample batch to start, and I started selling them every Friday at my daughter's bake sales at her preschool. And what was happening was the parents, week over week, were giving me the same feedback that I was experiencing, but times 10. Now it was, my husband got stung by a bee mowing the lawn. They used it completely, no reaction. It was kids using it day over day, no reaction. My kids' bites were here. Now they're eliminated. There's no more swelling. Then people were saying, okay, the bites I treated were completely gone. The bites I didn't treated were 4 or 5 day nightmares. So all this feedback I was getting was really impactful at the beginning stages of establishing essentially what now is my company. And it wasn't until I was getting tracked down during non-bake sale days in the parking lot of the preschool is when I knew I needed to make my next move. So that's when I said, okay, I can't do this full time and give effort. I was split already 50-50.
Right.
So, but I also was not in the position where I had a lot of funding or money or anything up front still. So my husband and I made the crazy decision. We sold our house to invest in our first real big batch of inventory, which was supposed to last me about 2 years, the way that I had planned everything out. And we actually moved into a rental house because I wasn't quite sure how that transition was going to look with quitting my job and not having a stable income. And so we were trying to be smart about it, set aside a nest egg in case it didn't work. And I went all in. And I'll never forget, I developed a website myself. I developed my social media concepts myself. I branded the product Bug Bite Thing. And I just began full force off to the races. I'm like, I just want to educate people it exists. And so it was Mother's Day weekend, 2018, I believe, or 2017. I can't recall the exact date because everything was a blur since
Yeah, we understand.
And I was being talked about in a mom Facebook group, and they were all saying, where can I find the bug lady? Where is she? I need to get one of those suction things. And it was a giant group of people starting to tag me, and a news reporter from CBS 12 News happened to see that mom group, They DM'd me and said, can we come to your rental house and do a story about you in 2 hours? Like, what? I've never done an interview in my life. I'm in yoga pants. I have packing stations in my kitchen. So I said, okay, I just want to tell people it exists. What do I have to lose? So she comes out. They do an amazing story on me. It airs. The next day it gets syndicated to over 30 news stations all across the United States. And I sold out of all the inventory I sold my house for in a matter of like 5 days. It was less than a week. And that was my real taste of, okay, people just needed to be educated on what it was. I needed to start establishing credibility. So I offered a 100% money back guarantee, which I still do today. And I will always do that. Just so people know it's not a
gimmick. Yeah.
If you're suffering, try it. It's a first aid tool. If it doesn't work for you, send it back. We'll give you your money back. There's enough people in a big enough of our community that uses it that it's life-changing for. And we just want to continue sharing that messaging. And so essentially we sold out of our inventory. I moved from the rental house to a bigger house up the road that had a big garage, thinking that I could start operating the business out of the garage. And very shortly after that, we started to gain a lot of traction on our own. And I was reached out from a producer from Shark Tank who encouraged me to audition for the show. Didn't think it was real. It felt surreal ever since that one news interview. So it almost was back to back to back. And mind you, I started social media. I'm self-taught. So I was taking Udemy classes or Udemy classes. I was just trying to figure it out. I was developing little mini departments on my own. My hairdresser's daughter became my new assistant. Like, it was just, who can I rally together to help me to keep the momentum going and to keep educating people who are suffering? And Shark Tank saw that within our own community. We were very fortunate.
I have chills like listening to you because, as inventors and creators and all of these things, like we have a very similar story. We were also we used to play real estate and business, in our grandmother's house when we were kids. I totally get it. I think a lot about, inventions, right? And there's been so many millions and millions over time, right? But when you think about something like you brought to life, there is a slice in this world for you and for that to be here, right? And it's so cool. It's so cool to watch your progress. And the really beautiful thing is that you weren't in this to make a lot of money, right?
No, and to be honest with you, the factory is still a huge part of our efforts. They have now, so after everything exploded and we moved and we knew we were going to go to Shark Tank, I immediately called my mom and I said, please come help me, come in the business. This is bigger. I want your business experience. At that point, we negotiated exclusive distribution rights for the entire United States. So we were protected before we went on the show. And after the show happened and everything started to explode, our factory converted to Bug Bite Thing Europe. So now they are working exclusively with us.
Wow.
With global distribution rights for the product. And now we're working on adding a line of products under our brand, which we'll get to in a little bit. And they're helping our efforts. They've been amazing partners. And it's watching both of our dreams come to life. So just like you said, there's inventors and then there's marketers and there's people that are in tune and can understand both sides and how to marry it.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be something you're passionate about or you don't see it clear. I always was just following my own community. They are telling me what they want. They're telling me the next products. They're telling me they want a keychain hole and colors and how they're understanding the product, the skepticism that they have about the product, so we can create things to help put their mind at ease. So it's all consumer driven.
And you know what, though? It comes from you because you are clearly so passionate and you're in this because you really want people to feel better. Right.
I do. 100%.
And that comes through 100% with you. So what was that experience like being on Shark Tank?
It was insane. Very surreal. I always tell people I feel like I blacked out, but pieces started coming back after. So we went on. I over prepared. I studied every episode and took notes. And we were super fortunate enough. We got offers from all the sharks, big sigh of relief. And then Lori Grenier offered us her golden ticket, which she gives out one per season. We went in there with our eye on Lori. So it was literally
Love Lori.
come true when that essentially happened. And like I said, after Shark Tank aired, everything just exploded. So
yeah. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. And what there's so many parts of your story I just love. Like it's you have a matriarchal line, right, of power in your family, and to watch your grandmother and your mother and then you, and now you have your daughter who's watching you. And that's so beautiful. I mean, like what else is there in life except to model that's, that empowerment?
My daughter sent me an email in the middle of work the other day from her school email and said something that just my jaw dropped. And I was such a braggy mom moment because I'm like, I'm teaching her this stuff and it's not intentional. She's just mimicking and modeling. And she said, she said something, I just want to clarify, I am staying after her volleyball to clear up any confusion. And I'm like, she is 11 years old. I'm like, how is she even, and the words she's using. And I'm like, okay, because I'm trying to really instill that you have to, people are different. Your customers are different.
Mm-hmm.
Your employers are different. People, your coworkers, families. You have to learn to adapt and understand that everybody's viewpoints and thought processes are not the same. And you can still be kind and not agree with everything. And there's just ways to be proactive and have good insight on things. So I'm really trying to model that for the girls. And anyway.
No, it's beautiful. It really is. It's wonderful. So what of all these experience, now you're the CEO of this multi-million-dollar empire you're building. Of all the experiences that you've had throughout this, what are one or two experiences that really just are anchored in your memory as like the best thing ever?
Our Shark Tank update was huge. So not even one season later, we got an update from the first, massive growth after our first airings. Our update showcased that we're now in over 30,000 retail stores, which is a huge accomplishment for us. Our expansion into other countries, we're in over 34 countries now with approval processes and everything. It takes years at sometimes because of the type of product we're classified as. And so I would say the update was a big one. And then fast forward, because we're very community driven, our customers kept saying over and over and over they wanted a tick tool. They were actually using the suction tool to help with tick bites anyway. So that's how we were able to track the need for a tick product on the market that essentially, was sustainable. It met the CDC guidelines. So I actually began a similar concept like what I did with the suction tool. And I started researching what was the product out there that already existed that checked off all the boxes with what my community wanted, what I believed in, what was going to help people. And we found it, and we made our first acquisition this year, which is huge. And we
very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. We launched our brand new tick remover tool. It's double-sided. It works for both people and pets. It's got fine tip tweezers for really small ticks. And when I say really small ticks, I'm talking, sometimes it's like the top of it.
I know because I used it. I used it this summer because here on Long Island, we have a huge deer tick population and limes. Everybody has limes out here. Yep. And my younger son had a deer tick and I literally ran into my office where I had your products that you'd sent me and I ripped it open and I used it. And which makes, I have a question. The products, I mean, I don't want to say this lightly, but they could be like life-saving products, no?
So we actually just partnered with the Global Lyme Alliance, which is the largest nonprofit organization to help bring awareness to Lyme disease, education, resources, mentorship, grants for research and development. So that way people can continue to I mean, like you just said, and if your area is ridden with people that have Lyme's and there's doctors still in the United States that don't even recognize Lyme's as a condition or they're not checking for it. So Our goal is to 100% follow the same pattern we always have done by educating. We want to be the leading hub to educate our community and the public about the issues that are around ticks and what to do when you get bit by a tick. Do you keep the tick? Do you freeze the tick? What do you do? People don't know. What happens if your child gets a tick? What happens if you get a tick? What about a pet? So there's just so much that still needs to happen around tick awareness, tick education, tick-borne illness. So we're really looking forward to partnering with leading experts in this industry and medical professionals and researchers to really shed light and get that messaging out through our network.
That's amazing.
It's important. It's really big, important stuff. I mean, it's critical, like quite literally. I mean, the tick stuff, but then also I think that if you've never seen a child or like an adult, it's so regional too. So like my husband is from the UK and he's okay here with the midges, but when we went to the islands in the Caribbean, I mean, he had welts on his legs. And I'm thinking to myself, my sister owes me a couple of boxes that need to be sent to the UK here. And I'm like, can you throw a couple of the bug bite things in? Because we definitely need one. Mine. And it's so, to watch my little nephew wake up with like a welt on his eye. I mean, it's really scary and it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And you don't know what that's going to be. You don't know how that's going to, like you said, they get infected. They do. So it's a big deal. And I think we're taught to just be like, oh, it's a bug bite, like get over it. Right. But we can deal with these things. We can handle them. We don't just have to like itch and get infected.
And all the mimicking symptoms some of these tick-borne illnesses have, people think they're other things. I mean, there's so many syndromes and disorders and things that are being identified, and there's direct links to Lyme and tick and things like that people just don't even know to ask their providers to test what to test for if they don't know. So that's where we come to really help get that messaging out and, really hone in on our partnerships like with the Global Lyme Alliance. So
it's amazing.
It is. It's amazing.
The other thing
go ahead, Kelley. Go.
I was going to say the other thing we just did, we partnered with the RARC Foundation, which is an animal rescue foundation by two-time Super Bowl winner Logan Ryan. And we just did a big partnership and collaboration, and we're going to be donating 20% of profits back to his foundation, using his code on our website, and that's going to help continue bring awareness to tick-borne illness, Lyme education. We made a big donation to a lot of his animal rescue foundations this year with our tick remover tool. So now any of the rescue animals that come in, because they get ticks, they literally will get a rescue animal and they're pulling ticks off. So we're able to at least provide a first aid tool for them to help with that scenario. So we're very excited to continue the mission with bringing awareness and education.
Yeah, and you give back so much. I mean, that's the really cool thing about your company and your empire is like you're always thinking about other people, right? And how to bring other people along on your journey.
They did it. My community did all of this. They're the real, angels in all this, because they're the ones that will advocate when somebody gets in one of my threads and says this thing doesn't work, it's proven it doesn't work. You'll have 10 of my customers jump in and go, yeah, you can't create a placebo effect when my welt goes from this to this, and I get them over and over again. Or a child stung at the park, by a bee and he's screaming in pain. They use it and then he goes back to playing. How can that be a placebo effect? We have clinical data, we have clinical testing on the product, and we have over 89,000 reviews, and we're Amazon's best-selling product. And we offer a 100% money-back guarantee. So we truly just want people to try it if they're suffering. And same with the tick product. Our tick tool is substantial. It's made of stainless steel. It's not little. It shouldn't get lost in your travel bag. So that's also very important to, make sure you're aware if you're in wooded areas to have something around.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is not, you could use this on babies because there's nothing, it's not a chemical, right? So it's just plastic. It's really a very cool tool. I mean, it really is and I say this as somebody that I reviewed baby products for a decade, and, you'd see these things that would come across and you'd be like, okay, another whatever. Yeah. This is really cool. From a working mom perspective, like, do you have any advice for people that want to be the CEO of a company and are also a mom at the same time?
I may not have traditional advice, but I'll just tell you my honest advice. I didn't want my kids to, I wanted to pursue my career. This is my dream. I've worked really hard, but I also didn't ever want to sacrifice being a mom and being with my kids. So I said, when I started getting these opportunities, I said, how am I going to do this creatively? And my schedule is absolutely insane, meaning I schedule time in with my kids. I schedule school events. I block everything out for my kids first. I take them to school every morning. My husband picks them up from school. So they don't realize all of the craziness happening behind the scenes. And if I'm out traveling, we have a good flow for that. So they don't even, it's always strategic, and it's an extra step. And a lot of people don't like that extra step. But for me, it wasn't an option. I didn't want my kids to feel mom was away from them all the time, and they get to participate and go to some of these events. They've seen me at speaking events, which is great education for them. They've gotten to we got an exclusive Girl Scout tour to Camp Walaka. So we got to go behind the scenes and get a tour of all the mangroves and all the outdoor activities. So they've gotten to, I tried to include them in as many age appropriate and activities that I think they would enjoy, because it's all learning for them. So,
and I really love that you said that, but you also really want to pursue your career. And I think that's something that's like, we are, as moms, myself, and I'm like, we're told we're not really supposed to want that. And like, I also really want that. And so I really appreciate that you're like, yeah, no, I want to be the CEO of this empire and also take my kids to school. And we can do it. Like you said, it's just a matter of scheduling.
Our company is going to hit close to $45 million in revenue since I started this about 4 years ago. And it's been nonstop. And my kids have no clue. They don't have a clue. They don't realize the amount of work and the amount of stress and the amount of, things that come with being a CEO. We have a team of 30 employees here in my U.S. headquarters. Now we're branching globally. There's a lot of moving pieces. So I rely heavily on my team. I mean, my team is my second family. So building and establishing a proper culture, it took me 3 years to get to this team. It was not an easy ride at the beginning. I went from my garage to a 5,000 square foot office to a 10,000 square foot office. And now we're in 3 locations. So it's very difficult to navigate all of that high growth, being the face of a company, being a mom, and wanting, like you said, to live your dreams. But it is possible. And my recommendation would be to think it through. What is most important to you? Start with that. My kids are most important, so their schedules come first. My work gets scheduled and coordinated around that. And
I love that. So you were recently featured in a book.
I was very, very fortunate to get to contribute into a book called The Secrets of Successful Women Inventors. It's so ironic. The editor of the book, who asked me to contribute to it, actually wrote my very first interview when I launched Bug Bite.
Oh, that's cool.
She's she also contributes to Reader's Digest. So I was in Inventors and Reader's Digest, and then fast forward, she did a follow-up interview with me, and then she went to go launch her book. So I was able to write a snippet chapter about my story. It's an amazing, amazing book. There's a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, a lot of Shark Tank entrepreneurs, completely different stories, a lot of resources in there, a lot of advice, anything from manufacturing to social media to drop shipping to growth stories on what the first step is, second step. So it's just anybody that's starting out, I encourage you to read it. And there's not a lot of books out there, believe it or not, that showcase and spotlight women inventors. No. And we're right there. If I can do it and I don't have the training and the business experience and I'm savvy enough to utilize resources, my community, the internet, to navigate, to hit the growth that we're at, anybody can do it. You have to find your passion. You have to find what interests you, and you have to learn your strengths and your weaknesses. And you start to build around that. And don't be afraid to utilize other people, for areas you're weak, and consult with them. But consult with them. Don't say their answer is always the 100% right way. Gather as much insight as you can to make your own decision.
That's great advice. Yeah. So Kelley, if anybody is going through a fresh start or a career change or something big, what would be some wise words that you can impart to them?
Utilize your community. There's a lot of free networks. Here in Florida, there's an amazing network called We Venture. We utilize them still to network and for conventions. It's just there's a wealth of free information out there. Find series that you can watch that showcase and walk you through certain scenarios. And just always keep in mind, there's never, ever, ever a one size fits all in business. So if somebody's saying this is the way to do it and they're selling you something and they're saying this is the only way to do it, that's incorrect. Every business is unique. Every founder and CEO has a different vision of how and where they want to grow and get the company to. So you can't set yourself up with a one size fits all solution. So that would be my best advice.
Really good advice. Yeah. And then last question and the most fun. What was the last thing that you ate and really loved?
I'm going to sound like a kindergartner.
That's okay.
Jalapeno poppers. I love jalapeno poppers.
So good.
That sounds really good.
Like the cream cheese ones.
Yeah.
Like the ones that have the cream cheese in them. I love spicy food. So that's just one that it's my comfort food. So
I love that.
I always go with that.
Well, Kelley, it has been such a pleasure getting to speak with you, and you
Seriously.
are so inspiring. I hope that, women will listen to this and say, yeah, I can have it all. I can do everything. And, I love the part of your story that I really love. I mean, I love all of it, is that, you don't say no to anything. You just learn more, right? It's like, okay, if I don't know this, I'm going to go research it and I'm going to figure it out. And I think that's such a beautiful, way to be, that we don't see that a lot in people, but
it's limitless. It makes you limitless, right?
Yeah.
Why limit you to one education or one thing? You build the education factors around what you're trying to do and you will skyrocket. So
yeah. And obviously, like I said before, your passion is such a drive here, and that you are in this I can see it, you're in this to help people, to change the world, to make people feel more comfortable and happy. And, when you do that, you are already successful, right? Everything else just falls into place.
I mean, it's 4 years in, 5 years in. I cannot wait to see where you go. Like, I can see this is going to be, you're big. Obviously, you're already big. But I'm like, what other products is she going to come up with? I'm excited to watch.
Thank you. Yes, we're planning on launching a line of products and continuing launching this entire operation globally. So very, very excited. And I feel like we're just at the beginning. So
yeah. Well, we're really proud of you. Just as other women in business, it's hard, and we know that.
Hard.
And, so keep going, and we're so excited to watch your journey. Thank you for listening to today's story. We're always here, and we're proud of you.
A Fresh Story is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the first and only platform for everything you need to begin again. You can read the show notes and learn more about today's episode at afreshstory.com.
As always, we want to remind our listeners that while we strive to provide accurate and helpful information, we are not medical doctors or mental health professionals. We want to remind you all that the information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. We highly recommend consulting a qualified healthcare or mental health professional for any concerns or questions you may have. Remember, we are a podcast, but we are not licensed medical professionals. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical decisions. And as a gentle reminder, all opinions are our guests and do not necessarily reflect our own.